As tensions between Iran and Israel continue to rise, the Arab Gulf states have positioned themselves as neutral mediators, seeking to reassure Iran of their non-involvement in the conflict. But can neutrality truly exist in a geopolitical landscape this volatile? While these Gulf nations, Saudi Arabia, UAE, Qatar, Kuwait, Oman, and Bahrain, aim to remain neutral, the complexities of regional and global alliances make this stance increasingly precarious. Historically, the Middle East has been a battleground for global powers, drawn into wars driven by external interests. Gulf nations have long borne witness to the devastation wrought by these conflicts, most notably during the Gulf Wars, when foreign military bases proliferated across their territories. For these countries, neutrality is not just a diplomatic stance, but a survival strategy to avoid becoming the stage for yet another war. The Gulf states have assured Iran that no foreign military actions will be launched against them from their soil, despite hosting U.S. military bases such as the strategically crucial Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar and the U.S. Fifth Fleet in Bahrain. These bases, they emphasize, are not intended for offensive operations against Iran. Maintaining a balance between their security alliances with the U.S. and avoiding antagonizing Iran requires delicate diplomacy. Iran, with its long history of viewing foreign military bases as threats, finds reassurance in this neutrality. For Iran, Gulf neutrality signals a lessening of encirclement by hostile forces, a crucial concern as tensions rise with Israel. Yet the stakes of this conflict extend far beyond the region, threatening to spiral into a global catastrophe if mishandled. The Gulf states recognize this and are acutely aware of the dangers that aligning too closely with one side could pose, potentially drawing in other world powers like the United States, Russia, or China. The Gulf's neutrality also serves another purpose: fostering regional unity. The Gulf Cooperation Council, or GCC, has worked to strengthen alliances among Arab nations, understanding that divisions weaken the region's collective bargaining power on the global stage. Should the Iran-Israel conflict exacerbate regional fractures, it could threaten the stability the Gulf states have painstakingly built. But beyond politics and diplomacy, the Gulf states' neutral stance is rooted in an even more pressing concern: economic stability. Their wealth is tied to global oil markets, and any disruption to oil production could have catastrophic consequences not just for their economies but for the global economy. The 2019 attacks on Saudi Arabia's Abqaiq oil processing facility, allegedly carried out by Iranian forces or proxies, serve as a stark reminder of the vulnerability of Gulf oil infrastructure. That single attack temporarily halted 5% of global oil supply, sending shockwaves through energy markets. For Gulf leaders, neutrality is the best way to safeguard their oil fields and prevent their economies from becoming collateral damage in a larger war. However, this neutrality is not without risks. Even if they remain impartial, their oil infrastructure could still become a target, especially if Iran perceives any Gulf state as indirectly supporting Israel or Western powers. Meanwhile, Gulf nations face long-term challenges as they navigate their economic dependence on oil. Initiatives like Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030 plan aim to diversify their economies away from oil dependency, but this transition will take time. In the meantime, any damage to their oil infrastructure would have severe economic consequences both regionally and globally. In the broader context, the Gulf's approach to diplomacy, positioning themselves as mediators, has helped them maintain a delicate balance. Qatar, for instance, has acted as a mediator in numerous regional disputes, from Lebanon's political crisis to the U.S. Taliban negotiations. The Gulf states' strategy hinges on maintaining open lines of communication with all sides, helping to de-escalate tensions and prevent the conflict from spreading. Ultimately, the question remains: can Gulf states truly remain neutral in a region so deeply entangled in global geopolitics? Their neutrality is an effort to protect their economic future, avoid becoming embroiled in a wider war, and maintain stability. However, with the growing complexities of the Iran-Israel conflict and the risks of being drawn into a global confrontation, the Gulf's neutrality will be increasingly tested.